that the gut microbiome is a combination of different microbes, which is the bacteria, viruses, fungi, archaea, and postida. And that's bacteria that's in and outside of the body. And the gut microbiome was actually discovered way back in 1670 when the microscope was invented. So 10% of our cells are human and the rest are microbes. So that means that 90% of the cells in and on our body belong to the microbes. So we're made up of about 10 trillion human cells, but 100 trillion microbial cells. But why it's so hard to discover cures and prevention of diseases and so forth is because there's two types of microbes. There's the aerobic and anaerobic. And the anaerobic are all the bacteria and cells that cannot survive outside the body. So everything that they have to study on microbiome and their microbes are inside your body. So that's why it's very difficult and challenging to figure out how it all works, and how there's so many different styles and species of microbiomes that one can function one thing and one can function another thing, but they're all combined like in your body. So how do you study that? You know what I mean? They actually have discovered that your microbes inside your gut weigh about 5 pounds. The microbes can actually work like this. They can be turned on and they can be turned off. So in a sense, it's like if you're eating a lot of plants and you've been eating a plant-based diet or vegetarian diet for X amount of years, and then all of a sudden you switch it to an animal protein diet, all of a sudden some microbes that are kind of resting and at ease because they're doing its job and it's functioning and it's kind of flowing and everything because you're eating the way you're supposed to eat, and then you throw something at it, the microbes turn on and they can do their job to digest this animal protein that you can survive off of. And humans are adaptable to animal protein, but your microbiome just might not be used to it. So it turns on and it allows digestion. So on the flip side, you can do the same thing where your microbiome, you say you have a good, healthy microbiome and you're eating a lot of processed food and you're eating a lot of, I don't know, substances, I guess you could say, that your body realizes are foreign. Medications can do that, like processed food, emulsifiers, those types of foods. So your microbes are working like on course. They're just like, okay, we have to work really, really, really hard. And so it turns on this certain type of microbiome to do what it has to do. And eventually they just get burnt out and they'll die. And so now your gut microbiome is completely compromised because you've basically killed all the good bacteria that's in your body doing its job that it needs to do to digest the food, push it down to the small intestine, the large intestine, and so forth. Then what happens is you start to feel inflammation, and then you start to feel mood swings, and then you start to have chronic diseases and obesity and all these things that happen because those good bacteria and those good healthy microbes are not working the way they're supposed to work, because over time you basically like just weeded a garden. You know what I mean? In a sense, I like to use an analogy like your gut microbiome is like a garden. It's like the ecosystem. And when the garden is well taken care of and you have a nice, healthy, organic garden and you're giving the compost that it needs, it'll grow, and it's supposed to do, it gives you all the fruit that it's supposed to. And if you stop weeding the garden and then you put, chemicals on it and everything that you need to put on it to get things to grow non-organically, you start to demolish the whole entire ecosystem. It starts to go haywire. It's the same situation with your gut. So you're constantly having to weed the garden and take care of it and give it the compost that it needs, which is like your plant fibers and so forth. So now your gut microbiome, just remember, it impacts your disease, mood, immunity, and inflammation. Those are the 4 highest rankings, I guess you could say, of what your microbiome impacts. And disease, of course, is the number 1. And disease, of course, includes obesity and heart disease and all these things as an organ, because don't forget, the microbiome is what regulates your organs. And going into some of the studies that they've done, there's a tribe that's in Tasmania who doesn't really eat a Western diet, and they don't have access to the Western medicine, which, by the way, Western medicine is okay when needed. So they don't have access to all of this, and they use more of a holistic approach. They have discovered that this tribe has 1,700 different species of microbes. Because we kind of follow more of a Western diet and we follow Western practices with Western medicine, that's including like Tylenol and Advil and so forth, we have about 1,000 different species. And that doesn't sound like a lot, but in terms of species in your gut microbiome, that's a huge difference, almost double. So what the scientists are studying right now is the epigenetics, and that's the ability to turn on and turn off microbes to prevent and cure diseases. So epigenetics, that's what you'll probably start hearing a little bit more about. So how do you keep your microbiome flourishing and healthy? Well, you know this because this is what we talk about like almost every single week is diet and lifestyle. And so just in 2 to 5 days, changing your diet and lifestyle can actually change your gut microbiome. That's how fast that it can work. And then and vice versa, you can actually you can put all that hard work into it, and then you eat 5 days of crap, then all of a sudden you're destroying your good microbiome that you just work so hard. So just always remember to fill your plate with plants. You know what I mean? And plants is not just like spinach and kale. We're talking about healthy grains and fibrous foods and beans and nuts and seeds and all the plants that you can get into your system while you can. And when you have access to it, do it. Now, remember the gut microbiome, it's the largest contributor to the metabolic process, such as inflammation and the development of your immune system. So if you have a compromised microbiome, the first 2 things that you're going to feel, the number 1 is the inflammation, and the number 2 is your immune system starts to get a little bit weaker. So if you're the type of person that is constantly like sick, or you get colds, you get flus, or things like that, if you get that more often, the first place that you should start with is getting your gut microbiome up to par. And the gut bacteria then creates these healthy neurotransmitters, which regulates your mood. And somebody that's always kind of like that rotten person that's always in a bad mood, and they're just not really, the kind of person that you want to be around, you can tell a lot about a person just by their mood, and you can tell a lot about their microbiome without even knowing like what they eat. So again, with the mental health issues, a lot of that's going on right now, they're starting to realize that people that consume a high processed diet, which most people do, by the way, because of cost and where they live and so forth. And also the other thing is the lack of education. You know what I mean? You guys, we talk a lot about health, and we talk a lot about what to eat and how to read food labels and so forth. And that's all important. The more you know about it, the more you're aware. So the 2 key elements to balancing your microbiome is number 1 is your diet and your lifestyle. When I talk about lifestyle, did you guys actually know that being in nature and having a relaxed state of mind can actually flourish your gut microbiome? So it's not even just the food that you eat, it's the lifestyle that you live. So what you do positively can increase the diversity of your gut microbiomes and all of the different types of bacteria that you have. And don't forget, there's many different species of the gut microbiome. So adding in a diversity of plants, adding in as many vegetables as you can in a day. So don't just eat spinach and kale, add in some carrots, add in some beets, eat the colors that, the rainbow basically on your plate. A small portion of your meal is okay with animal protein, but when you're actually looking at your plate and you're eating a bowl of chicken parmesan and you have, white pasta, and then you have the breaded chicken, how much of that is actually a real plant-based food? Probably just like a tiny bit of it that's in your red sauce that hopefully is not processed, in a plant, which probably in a restaurant, it probably came from a big jug.